7:35 here on the Big 550 KTRS. I'd like to check in with Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri from time to time. Senator, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Well, I didn't hear all of that. What did you mean, Roy Blunt from Missouri from time to time?
I said we'd like to check in with you from time to time. Good morning, Senator.
Good. I thought maybe you were suggesting that I was from time to time from Missouri, which, of course, I'm from Missouri every single day, and I'm glad to be. I'm also glad to have a chance to check in with you. So, what's going on in St. Louis this morning, McGraw?
We all have our Super Bowl hangover. Did you have a good time yesterday watching the Super Bowl?
Watched the Super Bowl. What a change in momentum after the game got delayed for 34 minutes. It's a much smaller issue than it would have been if the 49ers would have then won. The story would probably be the power outage instead of the game that was played. But what a great first half for the Ravens, and what a fine second half. Except for that first play for the 49ers.
It was a fun day for all. Senator, let's get to some news out there. What are your thoughts on Chuck Hagel and what's going to happen to Chuck Hagel?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to vote for him for Secretary of Defense. I'm disappointed with the comments he'd made over the years, disappointed with his unwillingness just to say, with one exception where he said on the question about the so-called Jewish lobby, he wished he hadn't said that. Mostly he said, well, I think if you look at the whole context of what I was saying then and what I'm saying now, they're consistent. Iran being the biggest problem, I think the idea is opposing unilateral sanctions against Iran, which frankly were a couple of times pretty much drafted in my office when I was the whip of the House. And those are the sanctions that led to other more effective sanctions. And then he made one statement in the hearing about how he believed you could contain Iran, which meant that you could deal with and contain a nuclear Iran, and I don't believe that. But if he gets to be the Secretary of Defense, I wish him well. He's going to have more. Whoever the next Secretary of Defense is going to have more impact on what defending the country looks like for the next 25 years or so than anybody's had for a long time.
Let me get this straight, Senator. You voted for Democrat John Kerry, and you're voting against Republican Chuck Hagel.
That would be one way to look at it. And the other way to look at it is, I'm not for judges, but for people who are going to serve in the cabinet, I'm actually for giving the president quite a bit of leeway. For people who are going to be there as long as he is and then leaves when he leaves, that's different than like a Supreme Court judge or a federal circuit judge or judges that are going to be ruling for years after Barack Obama leaves the building. But I am not going to vote for Chuck Hagel, and I don't know him well, but I've always had a good relationship with him personally, and I'm disappointed that he doesn't have positions that I think are more in line with where the country should be as we try to work hard to defend America and create a world that's better.
Does he have to explain how the mechanics of this works? Is the Senate going to need 60 votes to sort of get him to actually vote on whether or not he can be confirmed?
Usually not. Usually for a confirmation for a cabinet officer, the Senate is willing to move forward with 51 votes. But as I understand the rules, any senator could insist that this be a 60-vote threshold. That might occur. I think for cabinet offices, the 51-vote threshold should be generally the right threshold. We'll just have to see how that develops over the last few days. I was surprised over the weekend how many people that you would have thought would be supportive of Chuck Hagel, pundits and others were saying a couple of times even maybe he ought to offer to the president to just withdraw his name. He really did not do a good job at the hearings. His positions, particularly in the Middle East and Iran, are troublesome, and It's a big decision for the president and the country to make, whoever is going to be the next Secretary of Defense.
Let's move to another topic, Senator Blunt, and that is this Sandy relief funds, which has gotten you into some, at least some national attention. You voted against the Hurricane Sandy Superstorm Sandy funds. What's going on there?
Well, I voted for the amount of money that I thought could be spent between now and the end of March, the amount of money that they know they need. That's what we've done with Joplin and flooding and all kinds of other disasters. This idea that you try to project into the future what you're going to need and then give New Jersey an amount that exceeds their entire annual state budget, thinking it might be what they need, I just think is the wrong approach. And they also rewrote the Disaster Relief Act, the Stafford Act, as part of an emergency appropriations bill. Traditionally, if you have a disaster, you're allowed to put things back like they were and then do a little bit of planning for the future, the so-called mitigation. 7% was the cap. The new cap is now 25%. So not only does a disaster mean that the federal government can come in and help you restore things the way they were, but you can take another 25% of all that and do things that really, frankly, should be up to local government to figure out how to do on their own. The new levee, the new dam, this is not just putting things back like they were, plus a little addition. It's rewriting the law, and the Disaster Relief Act is no time to rewrite the law. So I was prepared to do what I thought was appropriate to do under the current law. I was not prepared to rewrite the law and take this big number that nobody knows whether it's accurate or not and just say, well, we think that might be it, so let's throw $60 billion at this problem, and we'll find out later if that was the right amount or not.
And lastly, Senator, while we have you, during the campaign, Governor Romney talked about closing loopholes. Now you're starting to hear that come out of the president's mouth, closing loopholes. Are you in favor of closing some of these loopholes as we go further in this budget negotiations?
I would be in favor of a revenue-neutral look at the tax code. I think the president made a choice. The Speaker of the House offered him $600 billion in new revenue by closing loopholes, and the president instead took, $800 billion, and the president took $600 billion by raising tax rates. As far as I'm concerned, this is now a spending problem, and that's where we have to look next, and I think we've done all we should do on new revenue for the foreseeable future, probably for the next 4 years, because I don't think this president's going to be willing to do a revenue-neutral look at the tax code. A few years ago, he proposed that we rewrite the corporate code, eliminate all kinds of loopholes, and don't raise any new revenue. I'm absolutely for that. But I don't think that's likely what the president's view is any longer. Though he said this, McGraw, at his State of the Union message. It's not like he said it accidentally in some interview somewhere.
Senator Blunt, we're going to have to leave it there. Senator Roy Blunt, from time to time, well, we always like you on the show, but you do show up on the show from time to time.
I do, and I like to. And the one thing we didn't mention is we're moving forward with the Mutual Bridge to connect Illinois and Missouri, and I hope that gets done.
Well, you know what? If you guys can't come together on that, then there's no hope for anything.
That is exactly right. The world is truly in trouble if we can't agree that bridge is going to be built anyway. That Stan Musial's name on it would be a great way to name that bridge.
Senator, be safe, and we'll talk to you down the road.
See you soon.
Okay, thank you. Senator Roy Blunt here. From time to time, he comes on the show. Actually, he comes on the show so often he gets his mail here.